How do I describe seeing hundreds or possibly even thousands of Jeeps in one place? Well, there's only one word that comes to mind: wow. Welcome to Bear Facts, where we explore the Smoky Mountains one bear fact at a time. So if you were around the last weekend in August, then you might have a clue about what I'm talking about. The Smoky Mountain Jeep invasion hit the town of Pigeon Forge hard and fast, leaving thousands of ducks in their wake. Not real ones, but those little plastic buggers that people were physically tossing around at each other on the highways last weekend. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, let me explain a little more about this smorgasbord of plastic ducks and topless Jeeps. It's called the Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion, and it's a yearly event that features, Jeeps. But like most Jeep shows, it's the Jeep Wranglers that really come out to play. The event is aptly called the Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion, as you really do feel like it's an invasion. I'm sure that locals would definitely agree with that as well. As you know, I do like talking about the Smoky Mountains in my videos, so it makes sense that I will talk about this 4-day Jeep extravaganza, as it affects the entire Smoky Mountain area for at least one long weekend a year. The Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion has 3 main things that attract people. The first thing is that it's an opportunity for Jeep enthusiasts to come together. Second, it provides a platform to show off your Jeep. And third, it brings in vendors. Lots and lots of vendors. One thing this show does not do is give Jeep owners a cool obstacle course to play on. Many other Jeep shows are known for providing these courses. As the footage shows, these courses are very challenging and fun. But I imagine that the LeConte Center didn't want them bringing in tons of rocks, dirt, and other things to mess up their pretty little parking lot. So no obstacle course at this show. Though there are off-site ones if you look around. This footage was taken in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and you can see for yourself what these Jeeps are capable of doing and why people want to try them. Well, not me. No way am I putting my Jeep on one of those courses. Sorry, no way. What they do have on site at this show is the Shine and Show and vendors. For those not familiar with what a Shine and Show is, this is where people make their Jeeps all shiny and sparkly and compete for best of, whatever they're competing for. Most of the time, it's about a certain style or year of a Jeep that people compete for. Many people like to just show off all their modifications, decaling, or other work they put into their Jeeps. And when I say work, I mean work. Jeep enthusiasts put thousands and thousands of dollars into their Jeeps. Bigger tires, better suspension, more off-road capacities, cool lights, you name it. If someone can think it up, someone is trying it out, and that's what draws in the vendors. As I already mentioned, the show draws in vendors, lots and lots of vendors, selling everything from Jeep fenders to rubber duck wheel tire caps to furniture made from old Jeep parts. The bulk of the vendors are selling Jeep parts, but there are a lot of them selling accessories, clothing, and other fun Jeep-related items. This year, as it has been for the past few years, it was hosted at the LeConte Center off of Teaster Lane in Pigeon Forge. The event started on Thursday and ran until Sunday, and there was an outside vendor area as well as inside. And opening day was a hot mess. I'm serious, it was hot, just plain hot. Opening day was a sweltering 90+ degrees with a high humidity and no relief in sight. I'm not sure what the deal was. Just the week before, we were in Florida with a heat index of 110 degrees. That was hot, but for some reason, it was worse when we were standing in line at the Jeep Invasion. This heat was one of the reasons we ended up only going one day to this show this year. For whatever reason, it just seemed worse than normal. Because of the unrelenting heat, we left after Thursday, missing a lot of the after parties, parades, and other events that happen after opening day. But what we did see awed us. The amount of people who showed up this year was staggering. If you have enjoyed this video so far, please let us know by hitting that like button. Every like is appreciated and every subscriber helps our channel grow. So let me tell you a little about our experience. The week leading up to the invasion was eerie, like the calm before the storm kind of eerie. When we got into town that Saturday before the show, the entire town was like a ghost town. We went to Paula Deen's that Saturday and were able to just walk right in. No wait, no hassle during the lunch hour. We had our pick of spots at the island, and the Gatlinburg Road was empty of all traffic. But most strange of all, there was no wait for ice cream at Crazy Mason. Like, none at all. Even the mountain trails that often have crazy traffic, such as Alum or Chimney Tops, had spots right at the trailhead to park your car. It was so strange, but awesome at the same time. If you've been to the Smoky Mountains, you know how strange that is. A weekend in summer, empty, unheard of. Now, during the weekdays at the very end of summer, that can be seen as more normal. Many of the southern schools are back in session, and for many people, the last week in August is not as popular for vacationing. But this level of dead was something you normally see in maybe February or March, but not one of the last weekends in August. Maybe it's just a sign that COVID revenge vacationing is truly over. I don't know. It was just strange to see. That week leading up to the invasion, we also headed down to Cades Cove, and were shocked that we were able to drive at a normal speed for the entire time we were on the loop. If you've been to Cades Cove, you might be familiar with the line of traffic that leads the loop. The speed limit doesn't apply here, as most of the time you aren't moving. But since we had our Jeep this time, we decided to take Parsons Branch Road instead of finishing the loop. As you might know, that there are two roads that many people will take who want a little off-road fun from Cades Cove. The first is Rich Mountain Road, which ends up in Townsend if you take it. And during the time we were there, it was closed due to bear activity. Yeah, bear activity. Seeing as people rush to Cades Cove to see bear and actually camp there hoping to see more bear, I'm not sure where the logic is in closing that road due to bear activity, but it was closed, so we couldn't take that road. Though if anyone knows more about the road closure, please let us know about it in the comments. Anyway, Parsons Branch Road is a long and somewhat narrow, rocky, and very dirty road you can take that leads you out of the park. Google Maps and maps don't really like to call this a road, but it's about 7 mile long stretch of something and dumps you out onto Route 129, or more affectionately called the Tail of the Dragon. This is a great beginner's trail for off-roaders. There are a few spots that are a little rough. I would definitely reconsider taking a vehicle with low suspension on this road, unless you want to try and gut your car in the middle of nowhere with no cell phone reception and little chance of rescue. But don't worry about the bears. They're only on Rich Mountain Road, so you're safe. The road also has quite a few spots that are covered in water, so you get to clean your Jeep too, or whatever you're driving. When we went, the water was maybe a few inches at most where it crossed, but I imagine that it can get a little dangerous and a lot higher when it's raining. This road doesn't have as many sheer drops and ledges that you experience with Rich Mountain Road, so there isn't as many vistas or places to see the tops of the mountains. But the forest surrounding you the entire way, and it's quiet and tranquil. Usually it is a very low traffic, but you still don't want to go too fast as the road is rough and bendy. But because it was Jeep Week in the Smokies, we had company the entire time. And surprise, surprise, they were all Jeeps. So I will warn you, before getting on this road, make sure you go to the bathroom beforehand. Even if you attempt to take the road at 30 miles an hour, which I would suggest not trying, and make it to the tail of the dragon in one piece, you will still need to loop back around the tail of the dragon to get to the foothills, which will take you back to Townsend. The Parsons Branch Road is a one-way road, so there's no going back that way. You are well into the tail of the dragon when you finally hit the road, and you will probably see a lot of motorcycles and cool cars as you navigate your way back to the foothills. The Trail of the Dragon is a very popular destination for roadsters and people who like to go fast. This road usually takes at least one life a year and can be quite dangerous if you take it too fast. Once you get off the dragon, you will then have to take the foothills back over to Townsend to find a bathroom or gas station. It can take well over 2 hours between the beginning of Kate's Cove, over Parsons, and back to Townsend before you see a bathroom or gas station again. It's a long trip, and if you plan on enjoying the trip, I would just make a quick stop before starting it. In case you aren't familiar with Kate's Cove, there is also a rest stop at Cable Mills, just as you're taking the bend around the loop to take you onto the other half of Kate's Cove. The turn onto Parsons Branch Road is right after you pass Cable Mills. Since we were already in Townsend for Kate's Cove, we also tried to go to the Kate's Cove Jeep Outfitters, which is also in the Townsend area, on Monday. But they were closed. I guess it was in preparation for the invasion. I heard that by Thursday afternoon, it was so crazy busy that they needed traffic control on the road in front of the shop. And if you have a Jeep or just like Jeeps, this is a fun place to go any time of the year, though I would avoid it the week of the Jeep invasion. This shop has a lot of great Jeep things, from magnets, toys, clothing, and other Jeep accessories. They are open year-round and are very inviting and welcoming to anyone, whether you have a Jeep or not. We love looking at the hundreds of photos of people with their Jeeps covering the walls and ceilings. It's a fun little place to stop in. Anyway, for the rest of the week, we enjoyed seeing the empty stores and the restaurants and had a blast. There were virtually no lines or wait for anything. It was awesome. But I knew that things would start changing by Wednesday. And I was right. Wednesday morning was still very quiet. We went to downtown Flavortown for lunch. The place was dead quiet when we arrived, and we were the only people there during lunch. But by the time we left, there was a line starting at the door. The Jeep invasion had begun. The week leading up to the invasion did seem to be a little on the abnormal side with how many Jeeps we saw on the roads, but by Wednesday afternoon, a third of any vehicle you saw on the road seemed to be a Jeep. Now, we have been to Pigeon Forge during the weekend of the invasion, but this year seemed bigger. There just seemed to be more Jeeps than in the past. And now if you watch my channel, I have talked about the Jeep thing in the Smoky Mountains. And if you haven't seen this video, I will leave a link in the description to that video. But this year, it just seemed like there were more than usual. Maybe it was because we were first-time Jeep owners this year and were paying more attention, but I don't remember that many Jeeps, as in ever in one place. The parties also started on Wednesday. Hard Rock Cafe and an unfortunately unwilling Wonderworks sponsor a Jeep thing. Even though we went, I still wasn't sure what it was. There was definitely a shine and show part of their event as people were signing up their Jeeps for a competition, but there were a few vendors as well. But man, there were a lot of Jeeps everywhere, and I mean everywhere. I felt sorry for anyone trying to get parking for Wonderworks or just trying to get a bite to eat at Hard Rock, because the parking lot was crazy busy. There were people cruising around, looking and showing off their Jeeps, and it was just packed. The Quaker Steak and Lube also advertised the Under the Bridge parties every night starting Wednesday, and there were many Jeep groups that were meeting up and doing Jeep parades. We didn't participate in any of these events this year, but I'm sure there are a lot of people who did and posted about them. What we did do was go to the opening day of the Jeep Invasion. I'll be honest and say that I might never do that again. We were lulled into thinking, with how slow and quiet things had been the last few days, that Thursday would be the perfect day to go. I didn't know if there had or could be a perfect day with all the people who had or did arrive for the Jeep Invasion, but Thursday, not the perfect day. I'm not sure why they did this year, but people were not allowed to buy advanced tickets online. VIP parking? Yep, you could do that online. Register for the Shine and Show? Yep, you can do that online as well. But advanced tickets? Nope, nada, not happening. And I guess there were well over 10,000 people there for opening day, and only 3 locations you can stand in the boiling hot sun to buy them. Worse yet, the show was only open from 9 to 5, so good luck coming back after the crowds thinned out. It was closed by 5, and the sun would still be out in force. Now, they did have 3 entrances, and once you paid, you were given a wristband and could skip the lines. But you had to get that band first, and if you didn't get in line hours before the show opened, you were waiting. And yes, people were in line at least an hour or more before the show started. By the time we got there, the line started in the front of the LeConte Center doors on the side by the parking lot and extended up and around the building to the new bridge that crosses Teaster Lane. I didn't do the measurements on that, but I would guess it was close to a quarter-mile long, if not longer. So we almost decided to leave and try to come back later. But being the ever-vigilant photographer that I am, I decided to hop up on the bridge to take a photo of the line of people below. This is where I spotted the other line that was forming in front of the outside vendor area across the LeConte Center. The show actually had 2 vendor areas this year. One was inside the beautifully air-conditioned LeConte Center building, and the other one was across the street in the new lot. To get there, you just needed to take the bridge that crosses Teaster Lane. This line was much shorter, and we ended up waiting maybe 10 minutes before getting in. Hopefully they start letting people buy advanced ticket sales next year online, but if they don't and you do decide to go, keep the other ticket booths in mind. There are 3 areas that we found that sold tickets. The other one was at the back of the LeConte Center by Jake Thomas Road, and then there was the one in the front by the parking lot. Pretty obvious that day with the number of people in line. And the last was across the street where we ended up getting in line for our tickets. $18 got us access to both vendor areas for 1 day. Yep, you need to pay each day to get in. I guess there was a lot of very angry people who needed to get back in to pick up stuff they purchased from vendors the next day and had to pay again. If you ask me, $18 a day is a little steep. I've done my fair share of fairs and festivals and know what putting on an event like this size takes a lot of planning and money, but that's a little high. Maybe give folks a discount for coming multiple days? We walked around the top vendor area first and looked around. It seemed that most of the outside vendors had more space to work with, of course. There were giant television sets and places they were setting up for events later in the week. We noticed that the outside had some of the larger, bigger outfits like Fishbone with massive trucks that had mobile part stores attached. We met and talked with a lot of great people who were just as passionate about Jeeps as us and enjoyed seeing all there was to offer. The top vendor area was also where you got to park your Jeep if you paid to be part of the Shine and Show. The map also showed that the VIP parking was up there as well. This is definitely something to consider buying in the future if you plan on going to the show someday. So, if you've ever been to the island, you know that the parking lot is big. The only real time of the year you might see it full is during Christmas, when they are also doing the lights on the river. Well, let's just say that by 10 a.m., parking was extremely hard to find and people were parking out past the island parking. Not a good day to visit the island if you were there just to visit it. Not at all. It was a sea of Jeeps. The parking lot was full to the brim with Jeeps. Mostly Jeep Wranglers, but there were a few others sprinkled in here and there as well. We enjoyed just walking up and down the aisles and looking at all the fun details and accessories people put on their Jeeps. We didn't see as many skeletons as normal, which seems to be a Jeep thing, but we did see a lot of variety and color. After visiting the vendors above, we searched through the vendors inside. The relief from the sun was amazing, but there was no relief from the crowds. People were packed in that place, shoulder to shoulder in some places. What surprised me a little was how few food vendors we saw. There was a Starbucks inside the building, a pizza place, and some other odds and ends, but not a whole lot of choices. I guess it made sense why, with the indoor, the food places had long lines with the air conditioning. The outside food places were not getting as much traffic. I think the heat was keeping some people from wanting to eat, or it was just too early when we walked the upper part of the show and the lines hadn't just started yet. I would say that the Jeep invasion was very successful. There were many, many ducks passed out to Jeep owners, and we did get a few ourselves. The folks up in the Smokies are very generous with their duck giving, so we normally do very well when visiting. If you are curious about the duck thing, I covered that in another video you can watch. I left a link in the description. The duck we were most excited about was the Titanic duck. He was so cute. A lot of people use the ducks to promote their business, and the Titanic took advantage of that and handed out their own ducks. We also passed out a few ourselves. So if you got a duck from Fairfax and are watching this video because of it, thanks for trying us out. So would I go to the Jeep invasion again? Absolutely. I just hope that the weather's a little cooler, but you will see me passing out ducks again next year. Is it worth going to the show if you don't have a Jeep? Not so much. The show is fun and all, but unless you have a Jeep or really love them, paying the $18 to get into the show might not be worth it for you. The real value you get is by just walking around the parking lots and watching the roads. Seeing all the Jeeps in the parking lots, driving down the roads topless, and filling the hills with crazy Jeep people cruising around, it's fun to just see for yourself. So if you are going to be in the Smoky Mountains the last weekend in August, check out the Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion website and see when the party starts. Or check it to make sure you miss the party, especially if you don't want to get caught behind a line of Jeeps. I will say this, it's not as bad as Rod Week, when all the souped up car fanatics descend on the Smoky Mountains, but it's a formidable sight to see, and every year it seems to be growing. As always, thank you for watching our video. Any likes or added subscribers will be greatly appreciated. So please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. And thanks for visiting us at Fairfax of the Smoky Mountains.